I just wanted to throw out there to everybody who's on the chat that we have to let you know that this is being recorded. But I just realized that it wasn't being recorded till a minute ago. So now we are.
Thank you. So we want to kind of do something fun to kind of figure out why context matters. So what I want you to do is I want you to go visit Google Earth. And so you can click on, Christy, if you'll do that, click on the word Earth. And that will take you to Google Earth. And I just want you to, explore. It's going to take a couple minutes to load. And Christy, while you're launching that, can you go back to the slide? And at the bottom of the slide, I say complete the table. So if you'll click on the word table, it will take you to this chart where what I would like us to do is for you to add your name and type in the place, and then go find that place in Google Earth and grab that link, and then paste that link into the chart. So what you're doing is I want you to think about the most significant event that has taken place in the history of the Earth. Whatever you think that is, I want you to, on Google Earth, go search or find that location. So if you think the most significant thing that happened in the history of the Earth took place in Mesquite, Texas, you'll click on the search magnifying glass. You'll type in Mesquite, Texas. And then it's going to take you to that place. Then you're going to grab the URL at the top. You're going to copy that. And then you'll paste that into our chart. So we're going to give you 2 or 3 minutes to think about that question, grab that link, and complete that table. And if you have any questions, just drop those in the chat. So if this were an activity that we were doing in class right now, right, I might use that classroom screen and throw up a timer, right, make sure that we get an answer from all kids, but y'all are adults. But we want to see at least a few of y'all see what you come up with and add that to our table. Good job, Aubrey. Way to be a fast finisher. Another little trick that you can do is, when Christy grabbed the URL to Mesquite, it just grabbed like the map view. If she were to go back to Mesquite, or if you guys wanted to do this too, in fact, this is my favorite thing to do, is if you grab Pegman there, Pegman is the little stick person in the bottom right-hand corner. If you drop Pegman down into a street view scene, then once he arrives there, that changes the URL. And so whenever you grab that URL of this location, once it's finished loading, like so now she can take that URL, and then you can actually take that URL and paste it, and it'll take us directly to that street view scene instead of the map view. I like doing that because it lets kids look around, and that leads to more opportunities where you can start asking questions about the environment and other things that might be going on in that scene. So while people are finishing that, Aubrey or Claire, or anybody else that's finished, would you mind sharing like why you chose, where you chose, and then we can look at your links and get an idea of why you chose that location?
So this is Claire. I chose Ethiopia because there was a jawbone that was found, the oldest specimen, 2.8 million year old specimen. They call her Lucy, and she was one of the first humans that was discovered.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. What about somebody else?
I picked Athens, Greece, because that's where Plato is from. Plato leads to like Aristotle and philosophy, which is the birth of science. So that's why I picked Athens.
Awesome. Somebody else, or Christy, why'd you pick Alaska?
Oh, I just picked Alaska because that was the quickest thing I could get the man to. But I would say because it was one of the last states. It was and it's a state that we learn a lot from it because it's not attached to the actual United States.
Okay.
And kids don't know that, so that it's
Okay.
actually part of Canada.
All right. Let's get one more person to tell us why they picked what they chose.
I chose Normandy Beach because that was a big turning point in World War II when the Allies invaded and actually made some progress.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. And they have some really good street view photospheres of Normandy if you didn't get to check those out. But I mean, think about whenever you have a class, right, full of 30 kids, and you ask them a question, remember that everybody comes with different background knowledge. So what Claire said and mentioned about Lucy, right, about that jawbone, there could be other kids in this class or people that we're here with that we had no idea that was the case. Like, who would have thought Ethiopia? And so whenever we think about our kids, they do come to us with different background knowledge. And I know I was guilty of assuming that kids didn't know anything when they got to me. But that's not necessarily the case, right? They could have that knowledge. We just haven't maybe tapped into it, or maybe we haven't asked them. And so knowing that Claire has that background knowledge of that content, that actually might shape and change what I do with my other kids. And knowing that as well, I think it's super important for her to talk to and share with other students so that they can hear it from her, not necessarily from me or not from a website or not from a video. So once we can start building context from the different backgrounds and perspectives that we bring, I think that it will be a little bit easier to make that content more applicable. So the next slide that we just want to go into some quick tools where we can quickly get kids looking at the environment around them, no matter what the subject and content area is. Google Earth and some other virtual reality tools are a great way to help develop this context and to create a setting for the content that we're teaching. So Google Earth, if you don't have it on your phone, instead of using the Maps app on my phone to like look places up, I use Google Earth because the imagery is amazing and it's a little bit more versatile, not in the direction area, but for that. So for this teaching with Google Earth slide, I put in some just basic things to know about it. So in the Explore tool, Christy, if you want to go back to Earth, there's a lot of different things you can do. The first thing kids always want to do whenever you go there is they want to find their house or they want to find their school. And so whenever you go and you use that search tool, it's all of Google Maps are integrated within it. So you can search by address. You can search by, the way that you would look something up in a phone book. You can search up a person's name and anything that person's name is named after. You can, look those things up. Wow, there's Christy's address on record for everybody to see. Y'all grab that. So good.
It's not pulling up.
Okay. Yeah, it's too new to pull up, but and you guys have to remember digital citizenship. We don't want to be keeping our.
I was just helping with the digital citizenship.
Okay, thank you. So yes, so you can type in specific places like she's doing. And then of course you can search for your favorite vacation, spot, all that business. But I think what is really a game changer when it comes to Earth is the storytelling that you can do with it. So Christy, will you click on Voyage, the Voyager?
Oh, there it is.
It's underneath. Yeah. So Voyager is already built in stories and content that Earth creators have put together. And so in Voyager, what it is it's sorted by topic. So you can see there's culture. I know there's the layers and the different games, but like click on layers. Layers has some great content for science. So I know that in regards to hurricanes, right? So you can actually put before and after images of, is that Hurricane Dorian or just current hurricanes, right? So it has some controls and tools that you can use to analyze it. And I don't know that we have any current storm systems right now. It's not that season yet, but essentially what it does is you can click through and you can see and go to these places, and they have data that's already collected there. So that's a great tool to do it. You saw the games, Carmen Sandiego, right? Man, that was my childhood, was Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? They've created a couple games for that. But these stories are ones that you can create on your own. So if you go back to that slide, that's what's called creation tools. So if you, Christy, click on the sample project. Did you do the one on the right side underneath creation tools?
Oh. Nope, I did the other sample. There we go.
So if anybody knows me, I'm the social studies nerd, but regardless, for whatever content, this is a sample project that you can create. And so this particular one is I took the TEK that involves students knowing the significant events of the Civil War. And if you'll click on present, Christy, you can see kind of how that works. You start with the beginning title slide, right, where you have a table of contents. And then right there, before you click on that, you can go back, and I've linked a YouTube video where imagine this being a self-sufficient lesson. So students could watch the crash course video to, get some basic understanding. And then you could click through from scene to scene, like Christy started doing. And what I consider it is it's telling a story of events or of something that happened. And what I did was I embedded some check for understandings throughout the project. So if I'm talking about the first battle of the Civil War and Fort Sumter, and I want students to create some kind of graphic organizer that is about that topic, then what I did was I embedded that graphic organizer into this story. So now all students have to do is click on that what if, so then, and then that gives them an activity that they can do. And then I would have them turn that into Google Classroom. So that would show me their understanding of one part of the TEK, which is Fort Sumter. Then I can click on the next arrow, and that would take me to the next significant battle or event. That's Antietam. For that, I just have a quick video that I would want them to watch. I have some expert information to read. And then I think on the next arrow, I have a street view picture of what Antietam looks like now. Because I really think, especially in terms of history, it's important for them to know like what things were like and what they are like now. And so whenever you go to the street view, you know, now I'm starting to wonder, man, what are all these lights? What are these candles in the grass? What is all this business? And so that ties into the curiosity strand, where you can start asking students questions about what they're seeing and then tying that back to the teak. So that's a great way to get some depth into what you're talking about. You can see that I've also, right in there, all that text is custom text that I put in there. A lot of it is straight out of their textbook that I just added. And then I complemented with some links to digital things. So this one has, like 13 other slides to go through. And all it is just telling a story with some different activities in there. So, Christy, wait, if you go back to Google Earth, I want to show everybody where they can create this. So click back from Voyager. And you see below that the map marker. Keep going. Nope, a little bit higher. On the tools on the left. It's going to be projects, right, where you can create your own. So whenever you click on projects on the left-hand side, you can just create a new project. And when it says create project in Drive, that's pretty awesome because this project saves in Google Drive just like any other file that you create in Drive. You name it. So like when I did mine, it was events of the Civil War. I've done one, Claire, you made me think of science where we looked at different plate boundaries in science, like the different types. So we went to Mount Everest, we went to the ocean floor, we went to different places. And what I like about this is, do you see the person at the top where you can add? It's the share button. It acts just like a file in Google Drive where you can work on this project with another teacher. So that's a great thing to do in a PLC, right? Where you don't have to create all of this on your own. You just think, all right, I want this location, I want to ask these questions, and I want to embed this video, or I want to embed this resource. So it saves back up to your Google Drive, or once you're logged into Google Earth, you can always access it there on that left-hand side. That video that says watch tutorial, I believe is the same one that I linked back on our slides. So if you want kind of step-by-step instructions on how to create your own, that's there. And then I also included that blog post from Ditch Your Textbook because it has 10 different ways on how you can use these creation tools. And what's awesome about this is it doesn't have to be just teacher created. Students can create their own as well. So whenever we talk about kids working at, you know, a deeper level and working at that creation level of blooms, this is a great way for them to contextually tell a story about any given topic. So any questions about that? Or if you don't have any questions, what do you see that being useful for?
Ty, I don't know how much wait time you were going to give, but so just to reiterate kind of what you said, I really like the prospect of kids actually going to certain places and seeing it. Maybe it will be a little bit more real for them. So hopefully they will, they'll enjoy seeing the actual places that maybe they're reading about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it makes it a little more tangible, something that they can actually get to.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, one thing that we're about to get to is creating your own tours. But I know for like ELA, they read a lot of stories about, you know, real places in the world, but a textbook doesn't always, you know, necessarily provide a lot of background info or give us a visual for what that might look like. So I really like pairing this with a story so that students have at least something to visualize in their mind. One thing that's been really successful in classes is I've seen teachers, right whenever you come in, think about your warm-up question or your warm-up activity or your hook for the day. You know, what if it were a place, a single place or a single link on Earth that you shared with them? And you have them ask a question, or you have them, you know, think about an essential question that you might have regarding a teak. Can you give them a location on Earth that fits with, and then have them respond on a simple Google Classroom question? So you can just take that link and post it, and it's super quick, but it also promotes that curiosity and context in kids. So, yes. So, Lisa, you asked about the VR goggles and all of that. So let's move on to that. First, I want to kind of model something that you can do. So I want you to look at this picture that I posted, and you know, look at the colors, think about what you know. And what I want you to do is I want you to guess where that is. So what you'll do is you'll click on that link to the map. And it's just a Google My Map where anybody can edit it. So once you get here, you're going to click on Edit. And then when you think you know where that place might be on Earth, I want you to click the marker tool underneath that search bar and drop a pin on Earth and put your name as the title of the pin, and then tell us why you think that location is there. So if Christy thinks that that's in the Sahara Desert, she is going to drop her marker there, and she's going to tell us why. So I want to see if you guys can do that. So I'll give you a couple minutes for that. Rita, you mentioned kindergarten students, that it's really helping them visualize interesting places on the planet. You're exactly right. And whenever you get Google Earth and you pull that up on those huge flat screens in our classrooms, if you're fortunate enough to have one of those flat screens, whenever you go to a new place on the planet, right, it animates it. And so students can see that, wow, we're in Mesquite, and this is all the way on the other side of the world is what we're talking about. So it really helps them understand that, yes, it's a real place in the world, and it's a very far place away from us, but it does exist. So I'll say the one thing about this activity, whenever we're all working on the same My Map, is it is updating and saving your pinpoints and saving what you add to the map, but it's not necessarily real time like a Google Doc or a Google Slide. So what Christy will have to do is she would have to refresh so that you can see other people. And what I've done with this with kids too, they want to see where other people are putting their markers, because they might have no clue as to where this place on Earth might be. So Christy, you want to throw that map up there?
Yes.
Oh, Maria, I like your idea when you talked about classifying triangles or Pythagorean theorem using street views. I love that. You can definitely do that. And I've done a lot of math activities with Google My Maps that we're on right now. So you can actually look at streets and you can put markers down to identify different angles.
Yeah.
So
We have 3 right now so far.
So Brittany's there on the West Coast. Christy's there in Africa, and then we got somebody in Australia. So we're adding those. So notice when you add them, right, you have to make sure that you title the point with a name so we know whose it is. And then right, that would let us know who put that. What did Brittany say? Why did she think that's there?
It looks like there is desert and possibly water reservoirs.
Water reservoirs. Good. You have some vocabulary there, Brittany, that you're working with. Good job on that.
Mm-hmm. While you're putting those up there, I know you're kindergarten, and so every week I've been adding to this map with kindergarten teachers, and it's a mind map. So just like how you said, and one thing I like is that it links to webcams. So we might give them webcams, but this is a way to put them all together.
I also like whenever you talk about the Cincinnati Zoo or this zoo or whatever that zoo may be, you can see where they are in conjunction to each other, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And from the earliest of age, right, we teach our kids where do we live? We're in Texas. That's pretty identifiable. But I know that young kid, well, even old kids alike, they struggle with just how big is Texas? How big is the U.S.? How big is the world? So whenever we give them math problems where they might be talking about a specific location or outside or whatever, I think if you can bring in some element of the real world, again, that helps just build that context for them and make it a little bit more real. So I will let you know where that is. Christy, will you click on the marker that's closest to Moab, Utah? Because that's where that is.
Closest to where?
Moab, Utah. That one right there. So we don't see your name, whoever added that, but whoever got 0.65, I can't read that because my eyes are bad, but you did great. So I love Brittany's context clues, right? It looks like it's in the desert. It looks like there's some kind of reservoir. So right there, because I have this map on a satellite view, that already limits where this could possibly be on the Earth. So I added the link in for us so that we could pull it up. And I think what's interesting is that whenever you go to the link, it doesn't take you to that actual scene. It just takes you to what that place looks like now on Earth. So we're not going to see the purple reservoirs or what we saw. We're going to have, I think that's non-potable water. I don't know, something like that that's outside of Utah. But I mean, think about the questions that you could ask kids once they got here, right? So look at that river, right? Why would that river be significant to this area? And then you can start have them diving into I don't know, proving why or using their context clues or all of that. Why is it in the city it's mostly green, right? But outside of it it's brown and red. It looks like that's probably some kind of valley. I haven't been to Moab, but what if one of our students have been to Moab? I think it's important that we give them that opportunity to share and to talk about what they know about it. So that's Google Earth. I do want to mention, Christy, if you'll go back to Earth, she clicked on it earlier just by chance. I mentioned, I'm sorry, Christy, on the slides. The bottom left where it says the street view and Earth, anybody can go make a 360 picture and put it on Google Earth or put it on Google Maps or put it in Google Street View. And so I've linked how to do that. But the link that I shared was a picture that I took out in a cotton field out off of Lawson and 80. And so what I did was I took that picture, I uploaded it to Google Street View, which that automatically puts it into Google Maps. And since we know Maps is integrated with Earth, now, Christy, will you take Pegman and hover the corner of that field on the left next to the road? You'll see that dot. So that picture that I took, she can go into Google Earth and she can, go manipulate it and go see those cotton bales. And so I can use, that image now in conjunction with when I'm talking about cotton production before the Civil War. So that's just to kind of prove that all of this is integrated into Google's geo tools. That's what they call them. So Google Earth, Street View, Maps, Tour Creator. Polly is what hosts 360 pictures and tours. So that's why I love this space, because since it's Google, it works. It's free. and our kids have the correct permissions to be able to use these tools, as opposed to some of the outside ones for virtual reality that might cost money or that might require a student to be 13 or 18 years or older.
And a fun fact, I don't know if that, is that even there anymore? Is it what we're asking?
It is, yeah, it is. It's just not cotton season right now, right? That was back in the fall. Whenever they harvested that cotton there. But yeah, that's over off in Lawson. So for Google Tour Creator, that's probably, that's my jam. But if you go to that next slide, Tour Creator is a way where you can make custom VR tours. So somebody mentioned, Lisa mentioned VR goggles, right, with Google Expeditions. So if you've used the VR goggles, you've probably chosen an expedition that Google or that somebody had made, and you used it with your kids. The challenge that we've seen with that is that the content isn't always aligned to our TEKS, or it might be extra content that they don't need to know. So there was really a need for people to be able to customize or create their own content, but still using, 360 pictures that other people created. So Google's Tour Creator fills that need. So if you click on the input of kindness, this is a custom, or I think you clicked on Texas Revolution, sorry. But all these tours are ones that were custom made to fit our teams. So whenever we're talking about the Texas Revolution and the Battle of Gonzales, why don't you just go to that place? And what's actually pretty cool is in our textbook, students have a picture of this in their textbook. So what I like to do is I like to take primary source documents or pictures or artifacts or graphs and charts that you might see as like stimuli on a STAR test, and I like to embed those into these scenes to make them more realistic for students. Here's the Alamo, right? So I can take kids to the Alamo, but when I'm there, I want them to see the layout of the Alamo itself. So if kids have this as a tool and as a resource, think about what they can do with this information. So back on our slides, I've given you a whole bunch of resources that you can use with Google Tour Creator.
And Ty, I added these for elementary students. These right here are tours that we've created with teachers. I've created with teachers just in this distance learning. And so one of the things that they had to learn in second grade was about different statues. And so we found different sculptures and statues and paintings that represented cowboys that brought it to life. So instead of doing that PowerPoint, now they get to go experience it. And one of the things when you create them, setting a purpose is really important to set a purpose for the tour. And so for this one, what they were going to do is they were talking about physical and characteristics and behavior characteristics of cowboys. And so they're after the tour, they're going to answer the question about how physical characteristics from the statues and paintings help them to understand cowboy behaviors. And so they got to then make their response any way they want. They got to choose to write about it, or to video, or to draw. And so whenever you're creating these tours, it's really important. What do you want students to do after they consume the information? So, and go ahead. And this one right here is it's Egypt, and it was used for third grade with a reading passage. So it was actually into their reading textbook, and what they wanted them to accomplish is to compare the characteristics, the characters. So after they did it, I put in here in the notes that they answered the question, how are the characters of the story different from you? And so these are modern times that they're living in Egypt, and just think about how different it is from the characters in Egypt versus characters that would live in the United States.
For Marie out there who mentioned Pythagorean theorem, I've used the Egypt expedition to learn about angles, complementary and all the other kinds of angles. And we actually, since it was a 2D model on an iPad, we actually calculated the area using a ruler on an iPad for that. And then we talked about, okay, how would that change if we're calculating it as a pyramid? What would, for older kids, how would that change? But on the, Christy, if you go to the other 6 tours, there's one there, Claire, that I did on plate boundaries, where it takes all the different ones, divergent and all that business. And it has, if you click on the cascades and click on the info, Christy, on one of those. So for each of those, we take the pictures of the type of plate boundary. So click on convergent, Christy. And so the same models and graphics that you see in a book or that you might see online, we actually embed that into the scene. So then you can start asking students, what that looks like. So all the different resources that I've given you guys for Tour Creator, let me kind of run through those. This one is the plan that it has. Unfortunately, you cannot build a custom tour together with somebody like you can on Google Earth right now. But if that's something that I want to do with the team, then I use that outline to fill in the content collaboratively. And then whoever is going to be the one in charge to build it, they just copy and paste that info in there. There's also a quick how-to that will show you how to use all the features in Tour Creator. And then, of course, we've been showing you the finished products. One thing to note is that whenever you build it in Tour Creator, the place where students go to view it is in Poly. So that's poly.google.com. And so that's not a tool or anything you have to learn. It's just where you get the URL to that tour. And then, Christy, if you go to the next link, all the things that or the next page, this is where it kind of talks about how these integrate with Google Expeditions, like with what Lisa was saying, is that if you create a custom tour in Tour Creator, you can view it on any type of device, Chromebook, phone, computer, laptop, whatever. What you have the option of doing, if you have the Google Expeditions app on a phone or on an iPad, you can import that tour that you made, and then that tour can be viewed with the VR goggles that you might have on your campus or with the ones that you check out from our department. So you're not stuck to only doing the Google Expeditions that Google has to offer. You can do custom ones. And one thing that's been really powerful is when students have the time to create their own and then they get to view their own in their goggles, we've seen a lot of success with that. So there are some, if you go back, Christy, there's some lesson plan templates there. Christy mentioned about, what do you want students to be doing during the expedition or with that VR? There's a sample student handout that you can have where it's a great structure to use no matter what content you're working on. And then I also linked that Earth stuff there too. So Mesquite 360, that's just a project of mine that I've worked on where, like I mentioned earlier, I found a need with students not understanding where things were, around us. And so it got me thinking that we're trying to teach these kids about like ancient China and all these, crazy things, but they don't even know where Dallas is, or they don't even know where Mesquite is. So this is just a project where I took made virtual reality tours over places in our community that students can go check out. So for our younger grades that are actually, learning about community helpers, or they're learning about some civic things around our community, there's some tours that they can go check out. So like when third grade goes to the Florence and Lawrence houses, right? There's a VR tour that you can take and give your kids to let them experience. So, wrapping up, there's just a whole lot of tools for you. This video shows you how you can upload a tour that you create on your own into Google Expeditions. So I really recommend, getting those apps on your phone, testing it out, and now's the time to play, right? Now's the time to experience, some of these cool, fun things and think about how we can use them. Maybe between now and in the next couple weeks, or even in the fall, as you look at your content, think about how you can use some of these to help build that context for kids.
Ty, I want to throw something out there real quick. That if you're watching all this and you're thinking that it's kind of heavily leaning towards the social studies,
Right.
I would think beyond that, because I am so bone deep ELA. Sometimes I have to remind myself there are other subjects out there. But go to Polly and look at what's out there, and you're going to get some ideas. And just see what other people have done. You don't have to use what they've done, but think of in terms of literary locations and any additional things that you can pop into there. And I think it's some inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. It's harder for me to envision what this might look like when using it in math, but then I think about how I have used it in math classrooms. Just something as simple as surface area. Whenever you think about, problems that you create for your kids, what if I wanted to paint the White House, or I wanted to paint a house or paint something, right? Well, I would have to be able to calculate that surface area. So, what if you gave them a link to a tour where it takes them to the White House or it takes them somewhere, and then all you have to do is give them the numbers, right? Give them the dimensions and they solve it. It's the same process, but it's just bringing it to life a little bit. It's just something a little bit different. So any questions or any ideas that you guys have, or anything that you wonder more about, we'd love to hear those. If you want to work through any of these, or you have some ideas and you want to start creating, invite us to work with you, or invite your instructional technology coach, because they all can help you with these things. Thanks, Bobby. Rita, thank you. I miss you. I know you're doing great things with your kids. Oh, yeah. Let me get that PBL agenda for you, Maria.
Christy, Ty, I think our top number of attendance was about 17.
Okay.
Did y'all see anything more?
No, I think that.
Okay, I went ahead and updated that, and I'm going to stop the recording now.
You can time
Okay.
and
Thank
record
you.
yourself reading them.
That, Brittany, I think that